Hello everyone, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to my 12 days of Christmas. And yes, I am actually going to be live 12 days in a row. They're going to be short sessions and I'm going to show you what we'll be making here in a minute. Just a few reminders. This is my November hostess code to use on all of your online orders. And my door prize for November is the Cambridge Carols. Now, the way this is going to work, every night for the next 12 days, I'm going to be showing something different to add to one project. And then I'm going to, on the last day, combine everything into that project. So tonight, I'm using the Stylish Christmas stamp. And you know what? I forgot to get my stamp out, so let me do that. All I'm using is the little poinsettia image. This one right here. Now you've all seen a little preview on my Facebook page. I'm actually using a painter's canvas. Something you may not know about me, I also paint. So I've always had some of these on hand. Now this one here measures 11 by 14. I'm just going to take the wrapping off of it. I really liked the white color and the way the texture, it looks like a textured weave on the front. So I'm not even going to paint this. I'm going to leave it exactly as is. And I'm not going to show you the whole project tonight. I'm going to show you just a smidgen, so I've covered it. I'm going to be working on this square right here. So as you've probably guessed, I'm making a Christmas sampler. So every night we're going to add a square as we go along. I thought it would be something fun. And then by the 12th day, we'll have all 12 squares. And I'll show you guys how to glue it on the canvas. So this is the one we're making tonight. And the first thing I'm going to do is bring in my Big Shot machine. Now the dies that I'm using on every single square are the stitch shape dies. And let me just bring in my catalog if you don't have these. They're actually on page 220 of the annual catalog. And you get 12 dies, squares, ovals, and circles, 4 of each size. And the item number is 145372. And then I'm also using the square from the Layering Squares Framelits. That's a 19-piece set. They're all squares of different sizes. Item number 141708. And this one that I'm using for all 12 squares measures a little under 2 1/4 inches. Now, as far as the stitch shape, I'm using the largest of the stitch shape. Now tonight, the only cardstock I'm using is Whisper White. So I'm going to cut out 1 of each square. And if you guys decide you're going to make one of these samplers by the time I'm done, because these videos will probably only be, I would say 10 to 20 minutes long each night. They're going to be short. And you can actually go back, just watch as I'm showing you, and then go back and copy or case my project. And then by the 12th night, you'll have all your 12 squares also. So let me see if I can bring this in just without showing you any of the other squares. I think you'll be able to see that. And the color I'm using is Balmy Blue. Now let me make some room. I'm trying not to disturb my cardstock because I don't want you guys peeking. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp 2 of the poinsettia. Now this stamp set is one of our distinctive, where it has a lot of detail. I love the way that the poinsettia looks. Now I'm going to cut these out. And just for reference for all of the other squares that I'm going to be making, I'm actually using Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Whisper White, and I have, oh, and Pear Pizzazz. I had to peek. I'm probably going to drive you guys crazy by not showing you the rest of the sampler. So that means you have to come back each night. Now this poinsettia is really easy to fussy cut. They're just little curvy lines. Just follow the outline, and I'm leaving about 1/16 of an inch of the white on the outside. And what I've done here is I've cut 2 and then I layer them with stamping dimensionals to make it look more realistic. Now, what I'm going to also do, and I'll probably repeat this each night, once I'm done all 12 nights of the videos, I'm going to combine all 12 nights into one video to put on YouTube. So if you guys want to do it now and keep up with me with each square, or if you want to wait till I'm done, I'll have the video up. Usually about a week later, I have the video up. Okay, there's one of the poinsettias. This is one of the stamp sets that I wish we had dies for, but we don't, so we got to make do with the paper snips. If you guys don't have these scissors, these are the best scissors to cut with. Any of my customers will vouch for you on that. I see some of my local customers on here tonight. Maybe they can tell you how great these paper snips cut. I'm sure most of you have them anyway. And if you don't, you really need to buy a pair. I'm almost done. So it's going to be kind of neat that I'm showing you a different square each night. And like I said, some of the videos will probably only be 10 minutes long, while others maybe a little bit longer. Okay, there's my 2 flowers, my 2 poinsettias. Now I'm going to add stamping dimensionals to the back. And I'm actually adding dimensionals to both pieces, both flowers. And what I did on this one, I don't want to stack them in the same direction, so I'm going to flip this one over. And I'm going to, I'm going to add the petals in between the others to make sure that you see some sticking out. Okay, now I'll bring in the 2 squares. So this one is actually white on white. And then you'll see, oh, I almost gave you a sneak peek there. I bet you saw some of it. I disturbed the little cardboard that I was hiding. So Dave is telling everybody that he doesn't dare touch my scissors. I have special scissors for ribbon too that no one's allowed to touch. Okay, so there's my 2 squares, and all of my squares throughout the sampler are going to be glued together with stamping dimensionals. Now I'm going to glue the flower in place, and I kind of added it at an angle a little bit. And then the largest of the pearl jewels. And you can see here how there's 3 little circles. So I'm kind of just covering those circles up so we can't see them. Okay, so that's square number 1. So you guys all know now that we're making a sampler. So tomorrow night, I'm actually going to be using the Farmhouse Christmas stamp. And I'm going to be using Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, some Blends markers, and the Whisper White. So that's square number 1 for tonight. Thanks for all the love, everyone. And I will be on again tomorrow night with square number 2. Good evening, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to day number 2 of my 12 days of Christmas sampler square. So let's review a little bit from last night. I am using a canvas for my sampler, my Christmas sampler. So last night I made this square for square number 1. That's going to go right here once I start gluing them down. I'm going to have a total of 12 squares. And I did have a few of you ask if I could list all of the supplies I'm using for all 12 nights. And I will go over some of that once I'm done the video tonight, even though I'm not showing you all of the squares because I want to keep the surprise each night. So let me move this over. So there's the first square from last night. If you guys missed it, you can just scroll down on my videos if you're on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, once I load this to YouTube, I'll have all 12 videos compiled into one video. Okay, I'm going to show you what we're making tonight. And because I almost revealed all of this last night, I put something heavy on here tonight so that my little cardstock won't move. So this is square number 2. I thought I would throw in something masculine. So that's what we're going to work on. And square number 2 uses the Farmhouse Christmas. We're using the little fence die and the little die to cut out the little truck. And that's from the Farmhouse Framelits dies. We're using the same squares, the large square from the Stitch Shapes dies, the 2 1/4 inch square from the Layering Squares dies, the little pickup image, and tonight for inks I'm using Gray Granite and Balmy Blue, and you're actually going to see me use the same colors throughout my sampler on all 12 nights. For cardstock, very easy tonight. I don't have any measurements. We have 2 pieces of Gray Granite. We're going to cut them out with the dies. So the largest square is going to be cut out with Gray Granite. The little fence. Balmy Blue is going to be layer number 2 along with a little bit of white. And then I'm going to use this to stamp the little pickup image on. Now, before I do all of the cutting, I'm going to stamp the little truck because I'm actually going to be using one color of the blends marker and a blender pen. And I want the Gray Granite ink to dry nicely before I start coloring. I did not want to use black because the theme of my sampler is the 4 colors. So I'm sticking with the Gray Granite. Now I'm going to move this aside just for now. I'm going to do all of the die cutting. So I'm going to bring in the Big Shot. So the first thing I'm going to cut out is the little fence, and I only need enough to cover this square. So I'm going to use my center of the fence because I'm going to end up cutting some of that. And I'm actually putting this, oh, I'm losing my train of thought. I can't remember what this plate is called. Okay, I'm gonna have to do it one more time. It didn't quite go through. I might need to end up putting a little bit of a shim. I think I will add just a little piece of cardstock. My precision base plate is what I wanted to say. So let me go twice again. Okay, and there's my little fence. Next, I'm going to do both squares. So the Gray Granite is the stitch shape. And then the small 2 1/4 inch square is with the balmy blue. Oh, actually, I need that one more time. Okay, there's my 2 squares. Now, what I did on my square that you probably didn't notice, I added a piece of white there to resemble the snow, so I need to cut a piece to glue on the balmy blue square. So what I'm going to do is cut about halfway through. And that just gives me a nice little rectangular shape to use for the snow. Okay, so we've got our 3 pieces, our little fence. Now, let me bring in, oh, look what I did. I cut my little truck. I gotta do that again. I used the wrong piece of white. So let me stamp that again. We can start gluing while I wait for that to dry. So now I'm going to use the white and glue that at the very bottom. Next, I'm going to bring in my little fence. You know what? My little fence still didn't cut right. I'm going to leave it just like this for now. I don't know why that didn't cut out. Oh, hold on. I think I've got it. I wasn't pressing hard enough. So we only need a little fence long enough to fit across the square. So let me do a few more. I should have brought my little dye brush in. I don't know if it would have helped though, because some of this is still on there pretty tight. Okay, let's see if I got long enough to, yep, I've got long enough to glue that on. So have you guys been seeing any of the Stampin' Up! 30th anniversary action going on in Orlando? A lot of demonstrators are posting some really nice things. We've got a lot of new stuff coming. Okay, I'm just going to glue that on. Next, I'm going to turn this over to trim it. Okay, so there's my little fence to go on my little piece. So you get the sky in the background and then the snow. Now I'm going to go ahead and color. So I'm coloring the tree with the light Old Olive Stampin' Blends marker. I'm not going to do strokes. I'm just actually going to pounce. I don't want the ink underneath to spread, because this really isn't the right ink to color with the blends. Okay, so you can see that the detail remained by me doing that. Next, I'm going to bring in the blender pen, the balmy blue ink. I'm actually going to use a clear block. Press down to get some ink. And then I'm going to add some color. Now let me show you the image again. I did leave a lot of white space on the truck, so I just kind of added color in the corners where everything meets, just to do a little bit of shading. And I'm going to try not to go too close to the gray lines. Sometimes it's hard for me to explain to my customers how leaving white space is good when coloring. It gives it more depth. But they seem to want to color the whole image. So see how just leaving a little bit of white space gives it that 3D look? Okay, let me see. I just need a little bit right here. Next is the gray granite. I'm going to do the same thing. Use a clear block. Clean off my blender pen. And I'm going to add just a little bit here and there. And because I didn't want to add black to my frame, I want to keep all the colors the same. It's okay to color the tires with the gray granite. It looks fine. As stampers, we can color our images any way we like. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do for coloring. Isn't that quick? So let me move this aside. So this is another quick one tonight. They're all pretty quick. I have a couple that are a little bit more detailed. So let me bring in my big shot. I just felt that I really needed to include at least one masculine themed. To me, the little pickup is more a masculine themed square. I'm trying to find the end of my washi tape. Okay, where is it? Oh, I found it. It's hard when I'm under the camera so you guys can see, and then I have the light that's glaring over the top also. Okay, so let's put this one through. And this set has been very popular. I've sold quite a few of these. And I'm actually having a class in a few weeks using this stamp set along with the designer paper. Okay, I'm going to glue this on with Stamping Dimensionals. So look at that ready. Next is the Balmy Blue layer. So what my plans are, I'm going to do 4 squares, like 4 days in a row. And then I'm going to glue the first row of squares on my canvas. So that way you're not stuck watching me glue 12 squares all in one night. Okay, so that's glued in place with Stamping Dimensionals. Along with the pickup. And I am going over on the second layer a little bit. It just looks better to me that way. And that's it for square number 2. So there's square number 1 and square number 2. Again, this is what they look like on the frame. Now, when I set out to do this sampler, I didn't plan on this being number 1 and this number 2. I just did a bunch of different ones, and then I mixed and matched them and aligned them on how I wanted them on my frame. So you're going to see that I'm going to have a few more that are white on white, and then a few more with the same colors that you see here. Now, for those of you that wanted to know what else I'm using for supplies for my future squares, I am using a lot of stamp sets. Now, like this one, for example, if you guys don't have this stamp set, which was the Stylish Christmas, I'm sure you have a Christmas flower that you could use to substitute for this one. So anything that's close works. So Stylish Christmas, Beautiful Baubles is one of the squares. And also, I'm using this ornament on a second square. Dashing Deer, and I'm using one of the small reindeers. Christmas Pines. I have to peek over here to see what I'm using. Okay, I'm actually not using the stamp set. I'm using the dies on one of the squares. Winter Woods. Again, I'm using the Christmas tree dies. Illuminated Christmas, I'm using the Three Wise Men. And then the beautiful blizzard, but I'm using the snowflake die cut. So again, you might have something different to use for snowflakes. And I'm also going to be using the Christmas tree, the Christmas light punch. And I'm going to be using our Snowflakes and Stars wire elements. So these are some of the products. I also have some designer paper I'm using and some other embellishments, but this is the bulk of it. If you're interested in following along and creating the same squares. So that's it for tonight. So there's square 1 and square 2. And I will see you guys again tomorrow night for square number 3 at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Good evening, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to day number 3 of my 12 days of Christmas sampler squares. And while I wait for everybody else to come on, I just wanted to show you guys a couple things that I have going on. Next week, I'm actually having a spirited snowman class. I have quite a few people signed up. We're going to be making 2 of all 3 of these cards, and then 2 of this little gift box. And all of the participants are actually getting a package of the Festive Farmhouse designer paper and a package of the cardstock to make all of their cards. And what I've been working on today, and some of the attendees are probably going to see this, but I made little treat boxes to give everybody. They're all using the Festive Farmhouse designer paper, and I used the Takeout Thinlits dies for that. So I made a whole bunch of these for everybody for next week's class. And let me see. On Monday, I'm going to have a busy week next week as I'm still continuing with this nightly 12 days of Christmas. On Monday, I'm going to have another live class, but it's going to be private to my team. And we're going to be creating this little gift card, or not gift card, actual full-size cards fit inside this. This is the front, just for a teaser. So everybody that's on my team, we're going to be stamping, and you're going to see me make 4 cards to put inside of this box. If you guys don't belong to a team, make sure you let me know, and we have a lot of fun at our monthly team meetings. Okay, let's get going for tonight. I did make a little graphic to show you what the colors are that I've been using each night. So we've got Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Pear Pizzazz, and Whisper White. I had to chuckle a little bit today. I saw some of the comments for some people that were not able to be here tonight. And you guys are just so funny. One person told me she had a date with her husband and was hoping it wasn't going to go too long so she could be here tonight. So you guys crack me up. Okay, so tonight we're using beautiful baubles. I'm actually only using the coordinating die, the detailed baubles. And that's this one right here. I'm going to use that for some die cutting. And the stamp is the one with the cluster of ornaments. So that's the stamp image. Gray Granite ink for tonight. Again, I'm using the light Old Olive Blends marker. And I'm actually going to use the color lifter tonight. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting with that. And then I forgot to list what these are called. They're in the holiday catalog. The new frosted epoxy something. I can't remember what they're called. I should have made notes. Now, let me bring in what we've done so far. This was day number 1 for the first square. Day number 2, which was last night. And again, for those of you that may be new tonight, I am making a sampler So we've got 2 squares made already for the sampler. Tonight we're working on number 3. This is 11 by 14 art canvas, and we're going to glue all of the squares on here when I'm done. I actually said I was going to glue all of my squares on the last night, but I changed my mind on that. I'm going to do 4 squares, so up to day 4, and we're going to glue the first row. And each 4 days we're going to glue the rows down. So let me show you the one we're making tonight. So this is the one using the baubles. We have the stamped and colored images, and then I have a couple here that I cut out with designer paper, and those are glued in place with stamping dimensionals. So for cardstock, the bottom layer is going to be Pear Pizzazz, followed by Whisper White. And then I have 2 designer papers I'm using for the ornaments. This is not Christmas paper. It actually comes from, the first one is actually from Twinkle Twinkle designer paper. And any of these pages you would be able to use for ornaments. I just wanted to show you that it doesn't always have to be Christmas paper to make it look Christmassy. And then this sheet is actually from the Tranquil Textures. Now I was just looking at these. Any of these sheets would look great as ornaments also. You can see all the patterns there and the colors. So I'm using this one. It's kind of blue and it looks like it has clouds all over it. Okay, so let me make some room. I'm going to bring in the Big Shot. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the stitch shaped square. This is the largest with the Pear Pizzazz. So there's square number 1 with the stitch lines going through all 4 sides. Next, I'm using the 2 1/4 inch square from the Layering Squares dies. And then my next step, while I have the Big Shot out, let me see if I can find my die. Oh, here it is. I moved everything aside. So this cuts out 6 ornaments in one swoop. But what I want to do is just cut out this shape right here, which is on the end. So there's that cute little ornament. And then the next one is the little fat one in the middle there. I'm just going to turn this like that. It's going to cut out a couple extra ones out there. Now, what I normally do when I cut out extras like this, so this one's no good. I've got 3 here. I want this one for tonight. What I normally do is open this up and then store them inside my case, and I might use them on the next card. And then of course we have the other side that has the little dots on it too that could be used. So that's how this cuts. It cuts out 6 ornaments at the same time, and you actually can stamp and color these, and then you can see that it cuts out every single one in one cut. That's what's nice about this die. Okay. Now I've got gray granite ink. I'm going to ink up the stamp. Now what you want to make sure, there's little little lines there for the ornaments. You want to make sure that those are nice and straight. Okay, nice and neat. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put these aside. First, I want to do some coloring. I'm going to use the gray granite ink and just add color to 2 of these. I want to keep the color of them light so you can still see the detail. And the next one will be this one up here. I'm not really adding more than 1 color per ornament. I don't want it to be super busy. So that's all I'm going to color on with the gray granite. Next, I'm going to use the blends marker. Now, you know that we normally have to color with Memento ink. So we have to be really careful. And I just kind of tap the color on because I don't want to drag the ink lines. And then I'm going to color this little one right here. Now what I want to do with the color lifter is add a little bit of white in the center to make it look more of a 3D. And that's going to lighten up as we go here. I don't want to rub a lot of it because I don't want those ink lines to spread. So let me show you what my other one looks like for those of you that missed it. So you can see how I whiten the center. It just gives it more definition by doing that. Next up, I'm going to add stamping dimensionals because I want these to be raised. And I'm going to put that right over the ones that you see that are inked. So I'm just doing 2 with designer paper. I want to decorate this one a little bit. This one has little stars, so I'm okay with that one. So I'm going to use 1 of the larger right in the center and 2 of the smaller ones. Because we need bling on our project. You're going to see quite a bit of bling on some of my other squares. So isn't that cute? See how simple that was? But by adding designer paper and some bling, it really dresses it up. Now I'm going to glue that to my square. And we're almost done with square number 3 already. Now, I did have somebody ask last night about the measurements that I use and the products. Once I'm done with this video, I always go back and edit the top where you see the announcement. And I add everything that I use and I add all of the measurements. So just go back after I post it. Okay, so we now have day 1, day 2, and day 3. So what do you think of that so far? I love that you guys are so excited to find out what I'm going to do the next day. It's a surprise element, and I'm glad that you guys like that. It seems to be keeping the excitement going. So let's see. I'll take a peek. Tomorrow, I'm using some sparkle glimmer paper, and I'm using some of the copper foil sheets. And that's all I'm going to tell you, and it is going to be the same shape and the same size. So I hope to see you again tomorrow night, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight, and I will see you tomorrow for day 4. Good night, everyone. Good evening, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to day 4 of my 12 days of Christmas sampler squares. And last night I showed you guys what I was doing for my local classes for the month of November. And tonight I'm going to show you what I'm doing for December. and I'm going to be doing this home decor class. And I have all of these inserts for different months. I'm just going to show a few. Like this one is for November, simply thankful for all good things. This is one of my favorite ones, the one for the American flag for July. So I'm just going to show a few. I don't want to show them all. I did have someone ask me last night about the Spirited Snowman class that I'm doing for November. If you're not local, I do have a tutorial that I posted that was for sale, and I'll have a tutorial for the December one also that I'll probably post in a couple weeks. So tonight is night number 4, and again, for those of you just chiming in, I'm using an art canvas to make a Christmas sampler. And this measures 11 by 14. So tonight is night 4, and we're actually going to glue the first row of 4 squares. I'm going to show you how I do that. Now let me show you the colors I'm using throughout the all 12 squares. Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Pear Pizzazz, and Whisper White. Now let me reveal to you the one I'm doing tonight. So far we've done the poinsettia, the little pickup truck. Last night we did the ornament. And tonight we're doing the little dashing deer. And you'll notice that he is sporting a little copper bow. I hope you can see that. Let me move it up a little closer. And I'll show you all of the supplies I'm using. So first off, we have the largest square from the Stitch Shapes Framelits dies, the 2 1/4 inch square from the Layering Squares dies. This is the little reindeer die. So I'm going to stamp him with the Dashing Deer stamp image first, and then cut him out with this little die from the Detailed Deers dies. I am also using, I'm trying to think why I dug this out. This is just from last night. I don't even know why I have this up here. My only other part that I'm using is this little die. It comes from the Farmhouse Suite. And as you can see, it actually cuts 6 little bows at a time. I've gone ahead and cut already, so you can see how tiny that is. I used the copper foil sheets, and what I did is I just added 2 on the end there, so I didn't end up cutting 6 total. I'm also using Balmy Blue cardstock, Whisper White, and then the Sparkle Glimmer paper. So let me go ahead and bring in the Big Shot. Oh, and for inks tonight, I'm using Balmy Blue and Gray Granite. Let me move my little bow over so I don't lose it. I'm known to lose stuff as I'm stamping. So the first one we're going to cut is the stitch square with the Balmy Blue. Oops, that one moved on me. So let me do this. No, I think I got it. I thought it went outside the lines there, but I think I'm good. Let me double check. Yep, all is good. Now I'm going to bring in the Whisper White and cut out my little square. I'm going to use a washi tape only because I'm trying to conserve here and use up my little white piece. It barely fits on there. And we'll use the Big Shot one more time to do the deer. And you know what? I didn't even bring a piece of white to stamp my deer, so let me go grab one. Okay, so my first step, I'm going to use a stamping sponge. I'm not sure if you guys do your sponges like I do. I thought I would show you tonight while I have it out. So these are the stamping sponges. They come round. I cut mine in 4. There are actually people that cut theirs in 8 pieces, but I opt to do 4. And I usually cut out a piece of cardstock the same color as the ink, and I never clean these. I leave them as is. And this is an older punch that I had used, but there are 2 options. You can use the pretty label punch or the everyday label punch. And then I score them in the middle. And then all you do is put them right in the tip there and staple. So you can see that you can do it with this one or with this one. And like I said, use the same color of ink. And then I just put the initials here for Balmy Blue. And that way, when you go looking for it, it's easy to find. Now, my first step is going to be to ink up the sponge. And I'm actually going to do a little sky. Okay, now I'm going to just go round and round. And what I'm trying to do is ink up the corners a little bit darker. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do there. Oh, I just remembered why I had the beautiful bauble stamp set out. I'm using the little snowflakes right here. That's why I've got that on the stamp on the clear block here. I'm going to add some snowflakes in the background. Okay, that's it for that. So it kind of dresses up the sky. Next, I'm going to bring in the gray granite ink. Ink up the little reindeer. And I'm going to bring the Big Shot in one more time to cut out my deer. Now this time I am for sure going to use the washi tape to hold this in place. Because you can see there's a lot of the fancy swirlies where the antlers are, and you don't want to mess those up when you're cutting. Oh, I see Amy is saying that her video is freezing. Amy, that's usually your internet connection, because mine is fine, and I think everybody else is reporting that it's fine. Okay, now I'm going to add mini dimensionals and get this ready. I am looking for my little sparkle paper. Now I did this freehand. I just kind of went upwards to create a hill and went back down. And then what I did is I flipped this over to make layer number 2. So I'm actually using both pieces. And I'm going to add liquid glue. This is the best glue to use when you're doing glimmer paper. Okay, so we've got both layers there. Now I'm going to glue that to the white layer. Let me see if I can bring that down just a little bit. And then I'm going to trim the end. So you can see that's my little snow bank. You can see how nice and glittery that is. Whoops, I needed to bring it down just a little bit to cover the white. Now I'm going to glue my little deer. And then my little copper bow. Now let's place him. I have him over to the left a little bit. And then we're going to add that little tiny bow. Isn't that cute? I have a little bit too much glue there, so let me take some off. Whoops, it stayed on my finger. Okay, isn't that cute? That little bow really dresses him up. And if you want a female deer, you could actually put the bow up in the antlers to make it look more female. Now I'm going to layer my square. And it did snow here last night in Maine, so this is appropriate to be putting snow on my square tonight. Okay, there's square number 4. So now let me bring in my canvas. Let me make some room. And I'm going to show you how I figured out how to glue everything. Now what I did, as I told you, I think in video number 1, I didn't do, when I started creating my squares, I didn't do number 1, number 2, number 3. I just did 12 assorted squares, and then I figured out where I wanted them. And what I looked for the most was I wanted a square of each color in each row. So you can see that I have the white, the gray granite, the pear pizzazz, and the balmy blue. And then I just kind of played with spacing them. And if I were to go down this way, I figured out that I wanted an inch on each side. So let me turn this upside down so I can work with it. So what I did is I pretty much put this where I thought it would go, close anyway. So it goes about there. I am using liquid glue to glue these all because with the liquid glue you can move it around if you need to. So I'm going to use this one as a guide. Now I'm going to bring the ruler back in. And bring this down. Okay, so there's where my first one's going to go. Next, I hopped over to the other corner. And I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to line these up and use this one as a guide. And then bring out my ruler. So I have 1 inch and 1 inch. So I can press these two in place. Flip this around. And then I can add my other 2 in place. And I don't go close to the edge in case I do have to move them over some. So I can see right there that that looks good. I'm going to move this one over just a tad. And this one over just a tad. Okay, so there's my first 4. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to work on the the 4 squares on the bottom row is what I'm going to start with tomorrow. And then we'll finish the ones in the middle for 9, 10, 11, and 12. So tomorrow you'll see me working on this square. So I hope that you like what I've created so far. It's shaping up to be really nice. So like on the next row, I would not start with white. I would start with one of these 3 colors and just mix and match them along. So I hope to see you guys again tomorrow night at 7 p.m. and we'll be working on day number 5. And let me see if I can give you a sneak peek. I'm actually going to be using, let me see if I can dig it out. I'm actually going to be using the Blizzard's Thinlits dies tomorrow night. So we're going to be doing snowflakes. So thanks so much for stopping in on a Saturday night, and I hope to see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a good night, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Happy Sunday, and welcome to day 5 of my 12 days of Christmas sampler squares. And let's go over the colors that I'm using on my Christmas sampler. I've got Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Pear Pizzazz, and Whisper White. I've had a lot of you guys comment that you love the colors that I've chosen for my sampler. My favorite color is blue, so I always like using blue for Christmas. So let's see what we're working on tonight. I'm not using the beautiful Blizzard stamp set, but I'm actually using the die that goes with the stamp set. So I just thought I'd show you that they coordinate together. And throughout the next 12 days, these are the 3 ink pads that I've been using, Pear Pizzazz, Balmy Blue, and Gray Granite. But tonight I'm not using any inks at all. It's just paper, cardstock, and a little bit of bling. I am using the largest square from the Stitch Shapes dies, the 2 1/4 inch square from the Layering Squares dies. And tonight the base is going to be Gray Granite with the large square, and then I'm using the same designer paper that I used in square. Let me see. Actually, I didn't use this designer paper yet, did I? I'm just looking at my squares here. Maybe I should bring these in. So far, these are the 4 squares that we've done, and I have not used designer paper yet. I thought I had. I think I showed you guys something else with it. But this is from the Tranquil Textures, and even though it's not a Christmas paper, it still works well with the color combination that I'm using on my sampler. So let me bring in the Big Shot to cut out my 2 squares, and then I'll show you guys what we're making tonight. So my first one is the Stitch Shape square with the Gray Granite cardstock. So there's square number 1. And then the designer paper for layer number 2. Now I've already gone ahead and run the Blizzard's die through the Big Shot, and I'm going to show you how I got all of my snowflakes out. So that's what it looks like on the back. There's tons of snowflakes on this die. So you see 2 that came out already. I'm using my brush to loosen them up. And you'll see that most of them do fall out. So isn't this a neat die? What I've pretty much done with this, I've made a couple just like this. I keep the snowflakes right off to the side on my counter. And then when I do a card that I feel needs a snowflake, I just pop one on there. So it's good to have these all cut out ahead of time. I just have a few more to remove. I just want to show you something neat. That's why I'm taking all of them out. Let's see. Okay, they're all out. Now, let me just bring something dark so you guys can see what this looks like. So isn't this pretty just like that? Now, if you're very careful and you center the die cuts on a piece of cardstock, I'll show you a card that I made previously using this. This is too pretty to waste. So this is a card that I made. I ended up just trimming around the white to make it smaller. And then I used the colored cardstock that peeks through the die cuts. So it's like a 2-for-1 deal. You get the snowflakes that you cut out, and then you get the sheet with all the holes in it that you can use. So I just thought I'd mention that. So for tonight's square, I'm using 2 of the larger snowflakes. This is an easy one. I'll bring it in here in a second. I'm going to keep you guys guessing. It's pretty easy to see what I'm going to do because the snowflake is pretty much almost the same size as my square. Oh, you guys like this card? I thought it was a good idea to show you because some of you guys probably cut these out and then throw away that cardstock piece, and it's just too pretty to throw out. I'm glad you guys like that. And any color peeking through the holes would be pretty. Okay, just want to make sure I pulled all of the backings off. Now let me bring in my sampler, and you'll be able to see that I am going to be using the polka dot ribbon on the bottom once I'm done. So this is square number 5. Now remember that we glued squares 1 through 4 on the top, and I'm starting with tonight by doing the squares that'll go on the bottom, and then we'll do the middle part last. So this is the snowflake I'm making. It's going to have 2 layers so you can see that it pops. So when you actually hang this up or display it, you should pop some of the legs there. And then you can see how it looks 3D when I hold it up sideways like that. Jean is asking what size are my squares? Where did my other square go? So this is the largest of the stitch shapes, Jean, and that actually measures, it's almost 2 3/4 inches wide if you don't have these dies. And then the layer number 2 is 2 1/4 inches wide. Okay, now, because I am using, you know what, I need to dig out my clear faceted gems. I've got some loose ones here somewhere. Aren't these pretty? And these come in gold too. You can get both colors. So what I did, because the gems are almost the same size as the dimensionals, I glued 2 snowflakes on top of each other. And I lined up the legs so that I lined up the legs so that they're directly on top of each other. And that's where you get the 3D effect when you fold them towards the center. Now I'm going to glue the bottom layer flat and just in the middle. So if you don't have this die, you can use anything with a snowflake. We used to have actually the old snowflake punch that used to look the same, almost the same shape as this one. Now I'm going to put the gem right in the center and push down. And then you can see when I lift up all of the legs towards the center, how cute that is. So now when I bring this back in, this one is going to go right here. But I'm not going to glue that tonight. I'm going to do all 4 that go down here first before I glue anything else down. But you can see what I was talking about last night when I said I was staggering the colors. You can see that the gray granite is up here. So now I'm moving it in the corner. And then on my next row, it's either going to be here. I think it was here or here. I can't show you that right now, of course. So anyway, that is square number 5. And tomorrow night, I'm actually going to be adding this little star embellishment to square number 6. So you probably can see now where I was going when I added the copper bow to my little reindeer last night. I am adding a couple copper elements to these colors also, just to add a little bit of bling. So that's it for tonight. This one was a short one. The one for tomorrow night is going to be a little bit longer. I'm going to show you how I glued this down and a couple more things to go with it. So thanks so much for joining me for a short night. And I hope to see you again tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Have a happy Sunday, everyone. Good night. Good evening, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to my 12 days of Christmas sampler squares. Tonight we're going to be working on square number 6. And let's review a little bit so far what I've done in case you're just chiming in for the first time. So these are the first 4 squares that we did together. And these are already glued down. I am now working on the bottom row so I can do the middle row at the end so everything will line up perfectly. So last night was square number 5, which is going to go down here. But I'm going to wait till I have all 4 so I can glue all 4 down. So let me show you what I'm working on tonight. So tonight, and I had told you guys last night that I was going to be using the star, the copper star. So this is the square we're going to be making. Let me see if I can bring it up a little bit closer. I don't have much room to work with here. And let's go over the colors. I'm using Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Pear Pizzazz, and Whisper White. And I'm actually using all 4 colors tonight. For cardstock, I'm using Whisper White and Pear Pizzazz, Stamping Dimensionals. For inks, Balmy Blue and Gray Granite. And there, of course, is my little star. I'm also using the adhesive back Twinkle sequins. These are the silver ones. And then I brought in the Alpine Adventure stamp set. I'm not using the stamp set. I'm actually using the coordinating dies, the Alpine Sports Thinlits dies. And I'm using this little die that has 2 holly leaves on it. So I'm going to be cutting that with the Big Shot. And then I'm also using an aqua painter. So let me move this stuff over so I can cut everything that we need with the Big Shot. And to review, this is the largest square from the stitch shaped frameless dies. And this is the square that measures 2 1/4 inches from the layering squares dies. So let me bring in the Big Shot. So my first piece is going to be Whisper White, and I'm actually cutting both squares with this cardstock piece. Whoops, this one here didn't go through. Let me cut that one again. My clear plates are really, do yours do this? They're so curved lately. I've been using them a lot and I try to flip them over. But I think I'm going to need to get a new set. Okay, so there's my 2 squares. My next piece is the little Pear Pizzazz with the little holly leaf die. I like the way they're doing these dies now, so it cuts out a couple pieces in one shot. I'm going to go a couple times. And then I'm just going to bring in my paper piercer to push those through with the little holes. Let me put these on the white so you guys can see how cute those are. I'm actually only going to use one of these tonight. I really have to tell you guys, I told you guys the other night that you guys are making me laugh with all your comments. Well, I had some pretty neat comments from last night. Sandra told me that the only thing wrong with my class was that they were way too short. Only because I'm doing one at a time and I'm making you guys wait till the next night. And then Nancy thought it would be cool if I showed the whole sampler, but I'm not going to do that. I want you guys to anticipate what's going to happen tomorrow night. And then one more thing, Cookie said that she couldn't afford to buy everything that I use. Now, that comment, when I told you guys, you don't have to have every single thing that I have here. You could use a different poinsettia image. You could use something else that's masculine. I'm sure everybody has ornament stamps. So you can substitute anything that's close to these squares. You don't have to have everything that I have on here. Of course, you'd like to probably. Okay, I'm going to bring in the Balmy Blue ink and the aqua painter. And I'm actually using the ink in my lid. And let me just show you how to do this in case you've never done this. All you do is squeeze the center of your lid. And with these new ink pads, it does take a little while for them to loosen up to be able to do this easily. And then what happens, the ink from the ink pad transfers to the lid. So you can use that to color with. Now I'm just using some of the ink and doing a wash. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do on that cardstock piece with this color. Next, I'm going to bring in the gray granite, and let me rinse off my brush. Let me just squeeze this in the middle. Now, this one is a little messy, so make sure if you do this that you don't have any other pieces of cardstock nearby. So I'm going to add ink to my brush. I'm going to use my finger and just hit my finger with my brush and add some little specks. And I'm not sure if you guys can see that or not, but I have some little specks of the gray granite ink on there. I'm just going to do this one more time. So that's just a quick way to add the speckled background. Let me clean this off. Now I'm going to glue this white on white tonight. Remember that we have one square that's white on the first row of 4 that I did. So I'm making sure that I have a white on white in each row. I'm going to see if I can bring this up close again so you guys can see the little specks. So can you see the little bit of gray there? Yep, I can see it on my screen. So you guys should be able to see that. Next, I'm bringing in the star. Now I'm going to glue this, and the best way to glue these in place, they have a little curve to them in the middle, so I'm actually doing the bumpy side. Going to use the glue dots. I'm going to roll it so it's very small. And right here where you see all of the swirlies is where I'm adding the glue dot. And if you guys watch my videos, you've seen me do this with another project. So I'm actually adding 5 glue dots on all of the center swirlies. You guys should see my room right now. We went to Lowe's today to buy some more countertops and cabinets so I can change my room around. So I have everything on the floor right now. Okay, so I have glue dots all over the 5. There's a little swirl on the top. That's for the top of the star. Press that in place. Isn't that adorable? Just something so simple. And then I'm going to add this little holly berry. I'm just going to, whoops, add a little bit of glue to the stem. And then I'm actually going to put it over the top and under the other one. And then I'm using my paper piercer to press it in place. So it kind of elevates it a little bit. It kind of looks neat. And then let me bring my little stars in. So even though we have the copper star and these are silver, it looks great together. A lot of bling. There's two little ones, and then I'm going to add the next size, which is a little bit larger. And then you have this little holly leaf left over to do, to use on another project. Okay, so how quick was that? So there's square number 6. So you can see right now how I told you I was just making sure that I wouldn't want this square under where I already have a white on white. So I move this one over here, and the same with the gray granite. And then I'm sure that the balmy blue will be here and the pear pizzazz. So I make sure that no color is repeated in the same row. So that's it for square number 6. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be using the Christmas light bulb punch to do square number 7. So I hope you'll join me, and it'll be at 7:00 p.m. again on my page. And I am so glad you guys are here, and I love reading all your comments. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. Have a good night. Good evening, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to day 7 of my 12 days of Christmas sampler squares. So tonight I am using the Making Christmas Bright stamp set. I'm actually only using the little string image for my square, and then the coordinating Christmas bulb punch. You know what? I don't even know the exact name of this punch. I should have looked it up. I am also using all 4 colors on my square tonight: balmy blue, gray granite, pear pizzazz, and whisper white. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about my squares. I'm going to bring this in. Somebody made a comment that most of them are simple. Yes, they are. Because you don't want to spend a lot of time with something that's too involved when you're making 12 total squares. So some of these are a little bit busier than others, a little bit more detailed. Tonight we have another easy one. It's going to go right here. And then these are not glued down yet. Remember that we did 4, glued them down. So tomorrow night when I do this square, we're going to glue all 4 of these down. So let me show you what we're making tonight. Make sure I don't disturb my paperwork. So look how simple this is. It uses all 4 colors plus the copper sheets, copper foil sheets. Very simple, very cute, but it goes so well with all the other squares. So that's what I'm working on for square number 7. So first thing I'm going to do, of course, is bring in the Big Shot to cut out my 2 squares. Just to review again, this is the largest square from the Stitch Shapes. That's a tongue twister. Stitch Shapes Framelits dies. The largest square. This is the square that measures 2 1/4 inches from the Layering Squares dies. I'm also using gray granite ink and the chalk marker. So because there's very little stamping on this one, it's mostly cardstock, so I have all 4 colors plus a little sliver of the copper foil sheets. So let me bring in my Big Shot. So tonight the largest square is cut with the balmy blue. I'm seeing that you guys are sharing my video. Thank you so much for doing that. You guys have been sharing my video a lot, and I've had a lot of traffic thanks to you. Okay, Whisper White for the layer number 2 square. So that's all I'm going to need the Big Shot for tonight. So for my stamping, it's the little string, and all I'm going to do is use it twice. So 1 and 2, and that's all we need on that. Next, I'm going to bring in the punch, and I'm going to do one with Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Pear Pizzazz, and then the little piece right here, which actually I'm just going to rip this off. I think I can squeeze them into this right here. So I need 3 of those. Let's see if we can get this to work. There's one. No, it's not quite wide enough. I'm trying not to cut the whole light bulb so I don't use up all my foil sheet. Okay, so there's 3 of those. So if you go back and look at my squares so far, I have a little bit of copper foil there, the star from last night, and then a little bit on this square. I have a few more squares that have the gold foil. Just to keep everything balanced, I've added the gold or the copper foil here and there to balance out my sampler. Now let's glue this in place with Stamping Dimensionals. So yeah, a lot of you guys are agreeing with me. Simple. If these are too extravagant, you're going to get discouraged. So it's easier, especially when you have 12 total to create. It's better to keep them simple. I do have a few, like tomorrow, the one for tomorrow night is a little bit more detailed. And I think I have like 3 more that are quite detailed. Now I'm going to add mini dimensionals on the light bulb. And let me see, I'm going to glue these on last. So I've got one right here. And then I'm going to do the Balmy Blue and the Pear Pizzazz. These are so cute. Next, I'm going to add the copper tops. And then I have one more step. Okay, so there's, whoops, that one stayed stuck to my finger. So there's my little Christmas light bulbs. Now I'm going to bring in the chalk marker. And let me see if I can find something. I'm trying to look for something to elevate me so you guys can see what I'm doing. I don't have anything close by. So all I'm doing is starting right at the top. I'm making a line across and then bringing it down. Across, bringing it down. Last one, across, bringing it down. See how easy that was? And that adds a little bit of detail to each light bulb. So how quick was that? I'm sorry this is so quick. Tomorrow night is a little bit more detailed. So now this one is going to go right down here. So as you can guess, we're going to have a Pear Pizzazz square for the last one. So that's it for tonight, guys. I hope to see you again tomorrow night. And this is this square here that I'm adding, even though I haven't done the middle row yet. This is like my grand finale. It's going to have a sentiment. I didn't do any sentiments except for the last square. So this will be my grand finale square, but we'll still have the center row to do. So thanks for all the love, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Good night. Hello, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to my 12 days of Christmas sampler squares. So let's review the colors that I'm using on my sampler. Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Pear Pizzazz, and Whisper White. I'm stuttering already, so I'm not doing good, huh? So let's go over what we've done so far. So tonight is going to be square number 8. These 4 are all glued down. So now that we are completing another row of 4, we're going to glue these 4 down tonight. The one we did last night was the Christmas light bulbs. And I think I showed you guys there's a little bit of copper foil on the deer, a little bit of copper foil on the Christmas light bulbs, and then we had some on the star. And there's going to be more copper as we go along. Now let me show you the one we're making tonight. Now I did explain to you guys I didn't use a lot of sentiments in my sampler. I wanted to create sceneries, and my last square is the one that I added the sentiment to, and it's got a couple little die cuts and just the word Christmas. I wanted to keep it short and sweet and simple. So let's get started on square number 8. Let me just bring everything in. So I'm using rhinestone jewels. The Christmas sentiment is from Merry Christmas to All. The die cuts, I'm using these 2 die cuts. Those are from In the Woods framelits dies that coordinate with the Winter Woods stamp set. This has been a very popular stamp set. I've sold a lot of these. It's so pretty. And then for cardstock, we've got the Balmy Blue for the sentiment. Now this measures 1 inch by 3.5 inches. I'm going to put that aside for now. The Balmy Blue ink. And then for the squares, we have Pear Pizzazz, Gray Granite, and then we're also going to use these 2 colors, or wait, I said that wrong. Pear Pizzazz and Whisper White for the squares. And for the die cuts, the Gray Granite and the Pear Pizzazz. So that's going to be these 2. My squares is the largest square from the Stitch Shape framelits dies. The 2¼ inch square from the Layering Squares dies. And then I'm also using the Tailored Tag Punch. Now I do have a ruler set aside here just to remind me that we are gluing tonight, just so I don't forget. So let me go ahead and bring in the Big Shot. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the large stitch square with Pear Pizzazz. Whoops, I already took my sheet off. Next, we're going to cut layer number 2 with Whisper White. I'm going to do all of the die cutting so I can get rid of my Big Shot. Next, and I'm going to see if I can do these in one swoop, this little branch, and actually let me go get my precision base plate. I'm going to slide that under. So the branch is cut with the Gray Granite. And then the one with the leaves on it is going to be cut with Pear Pizzazz. I'm going to run this through a few times just because of all the detail. So there's the little branch, the second branch, and then we have the two squares. So I'm getting a lot of comments that you guys like the colors that I'm using. Non-traditional Christmas colors. I think every night someone has commented on the colors. Let me just do the little pokey trick here. Now we'll remove that. So there's the two branches. Just a few more pieces right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue the white layer to the Pear Pizzazz. If you guys see me flip my cardstock pieces over, because you do know that when you cut your dies, they kind of compress the edges so they're nice and smooth. So you don't want to use the side that has the little ridges on it. Believe it or not, there is a right side and a wrong side to the cardstock. Even when you're using your paper trimmer, the blade, when the blade cuts the cardstock, to me, the side facing down is the wrong side. Okay, so we're going to glue the white to the Pear Pizzazz. Next, I'm going to bring in the sentiment and the balmy blue ink. So we're doing balmy blue ink on balmy blue cardstock. And then I'm going to bring in the tailored tag punch, put it in this way, and just trim the two ends off. It makes a nice little banner. And then this is also glued down with Stampin' Dimensionals. Kathleen, you said bonjour. I'm French, so I love hearing the French words. I'm assuming you're probably from Canada. Okay, now for this little branch, I'm actually adding rhinestone jewels to the very top of each branch. Gotta have some bling. I didn't have bling on all of my pieces. Let's see, this one's gonna be covered because it's too low. Now we're going to glue this in place. I'm going to trim the stem because it's a little long. Oui, je suis de Quebec. Hi, Kathleen. Yes, I understand everything you're writing because I'm French. My parents are both Canadian. I grew up just speaking French, believe it or not. My dad didn't allow us to speak English in the house, so I retained my English, or my French, I mean. Okay, so I snuck the gray granite branch in. Now I'm going to sneak in this one. And as I do that, I'm going to leave one overhanging on the sentiment. Okay, so this is what I call my grand finale square because it's actually the last one, even though we're doing number 8 tonight. And then we're going to glue all 4 in place. So let me bring my sampler back in. Even though this is my grand finale, I have one. The one I'm making tomorrow night actually is my favorite. Okay, so again, like we did on night number 4, I'm going to move these over an inch on the side and on the bottom. And then just put these where they should go, centered. So I need to move this one over. Okay, now let me just double check my measurements. That one's good. Whoops, it was good. Actually, I don't need to measure that one because I need to pick it up and glue it. Okay, that's about where they're gonna go. So now I'm going to add glue to the bottom. And remember, I'm using liquid glue because it's not permanent when I lay it down and I can move it around. So I'm just double checking my measurement. Okay, so there's that one. Next, I'm going to glue the other corner. Whoops. I get the dropsies tonight. Okay, so let me just put that there just for a second. I need to scoot it over just a smidgen. Okay, now we're going to glue the other two. So we are actually 2/3 of the way completed. And I know Regina, I talked to Regina today, who's been viewing every night, and she's following along. And I think she said the only thing she didn't have was the same snowflakes, but she adapted. Okay, so 8 out of the 12 are done. And tomorrow night, let me just see if I can tell you what I'm using. Oh yes, I'm actually using a little bit of copper tomorrow night. I'm going to use one of the leaves from the leaves trinkets. So that's going to go right here along with something else. And of course, 2 layers of squares. So that's it for tonight. Just a reminder, tomorrow night I'm going to go on at 7 p.m. for square number 9. It's also my monthly Techniques Tuesday. So what's going to happen, I'm going to do my square first, and then Techniques Tuesday, I'm going to get off, be done with the video for the sampler, and I'm going to come right back on with my not techniques, my 3D Thursday. I said that wrong. And for 3D Thursday, I'm actually using a mason jar. So I'm going to keep you guys intrigued. You'll have to come back tomorrow. So 2 classes tomorrow night back to back. So I hope to see you then. Thanks for all the hearts and the love. Have a good night, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to day 9 of my 12 days of Christmas sampler squares. Tonight I'm using all 4 colors in the sampler: Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Pear Pizzazz, and Whisper White. And I showed you guys last night that I was going to be adding a little bit of copper with the leaves trinkets. Now these leaves come in 2 colors. You have the silver and the copper, and then you have 2 of each color. I love these. This is actually my second container. I've used quite a few of these. Even though we're into the winter season, we can still use leaves on our projects. For dies, I'm using the largest square from the Stitch Shape Framelits dies, the 2 1/4 inch square from the Layering Squares dies. Hi everyone, I'm so glad you're here. Now, tonight I'm using the Pretty Pines dies. No sentiments, no stamping. I'm actually going to be using all 3 of these. And then I'm also using the Detailed Baubles Thinlits dies. I'm using this one. Now, just to save on a little bit of the cutting, I'm actually using 3 of these, of the ornament. So I've gone ahead and cut those out with the Gray Granite cardstock, just so you won't have to watch me take all of the little paper guts out of the holes that are cut. So 3 of those, a little bow made out of the twine. And for cardstock, Balmy Blue, Gray Granite is what I used for the ornament. So we're all done with that one. Pear Pizzazz and Whisper White. I have a little piece that I cut out, and you'll find out what I'm going to do with that in a little bit. So let's recap where we're at. I have 8 squares all done. We did 8 days in a row so far. 4 that we glued after the first 4 days. And then last night we glued the second row. So now we're going to jump into the middle row. So let me show you which one we're doing tonight. And remember that I told you that this one is my favorite. So this is the one we're doing tonight. It's got a lot of layers. So this one is not as easy as all the other ones, but it's really not that bad. Okay, let me bring in the big shot. I don't want to lose my little pieces here, so let me move everything. Okay, so tonight the large square is cut with the Balmy Blue. Remember that I'm alternating all of my colors. So here's the stitched square. The next one is white. So I'm hearing from quite a few of you guys that you're creating along not probably with me tonight, but I have about 3 or 4 of you guys that have private messaged me that you're creating the same sampler. So I'm anxious to see what you guys are doing. Okay, now these are really, really detailed, really skinny little pieces. So I'm going to add a piece of wax paper. It just makes it easier to take all of the cardstock out of all of the dies. It kind of lubricates the dies. I'm going to give it a couple swipes. I think I'll go 3 on this one, only because they're so tiny. A reminder that I have my 3D Thursday following this one. You're going to have to give me about 5 or 10 minutes to set up, but I'm going to get done with this video, and then I'm going to start up the other one as soon as I'm ready for it. Now, you'll see that peeled out really nice. I just want to show you something. Some of you guys have probably tried this already. So there's wax paper under here. Now look how cute that is. Let me put it on colored. It looks like vellum. So even though it's wax paper, you could actually use this on another project. I've done that. I've done a butterfly like that I've used. Okay, there's number 1. And really, you just need to punch out the little holes like in the first layer, and then everything just comes right out. The wax paper helps a lot. So I'm not going to take the wax paper out of these 2. I just wanted to show you how pretty they are after it's cut. Okay, here's number 3. Oh, this one, the paper did come out. So look, there's 2 wax papers. So it would even be pretty to add these on and then add the green mixed in there. Look how pretty that is. But we're not doing that tonight. Okay, let me bring in my 3 ornaments, my 3 branches, and then my little leaf and the bow. Now we're going to glue everything together. So the white is glued to the Balmy Blue with Stampin' Dimensionals. Jewel is saying that she uses wax paper and dryer sheets. Dryer sheets work well too, and it really smells good when you cut it out, if you use the scented ones. Okay, there's that. Now I'm going to glue the 3 branches. And I'm just adding glue to the center. So there's one. I love these pine branches. I call them pine. They could be spruce, whatever you want. Evergreen. We'll call them evergreen branches. Okay, there's my third one. Now, the reason I used 3 of these is because I wanted my ornament to be thick. I'm going to bring in a piece of Post-it note and a sponge. And I'm just going to add a dab of glue. And I'm going to pounce on that and add glue to my ornament. And I'm just going to stack these 3 deep. And when you're done doing that, it's really the thickness of cardboard. It's really neat how that happens. Okay, let's add a little bit more glue. So you could do more than 3 if you, the thicker, you know, the more you cut, the thicker your ornament's going to be. It kind of gives it a 3D look too. Okay, so there's 3 ornaments. Look how thick that is. I hope you can see that. Now the little piece of blue cardstock that I cut, I want to put that underneath so that the blue peeks out. So let me add some glue. And then I'm just going to trim that with my scissors. So what I did is I measured, I'll show you in a second here. I measured from here to here so that it wouldn't peek out above that. And then I'm just going to trim that with my scissors. Now that I have the 3 layers on there, it's really easy to take your scissors and follow along. So look how that changes the look of the ornament just by adding the balmy blue under there. And you could add more colors if you wanted to also. Now, I'm adding more dimensional. So this one's really going to be tall. And that's going to go off to the side. And then my little leaf is going to be glued in place with glue dots. I'm going to add a couple. And I'm just going to slide that under the ornament just a little bit. So see how much that adds just by adding that copper, just that little sparkle. And lastly, I'm going to roll up a glue dot and then press my little twine in place. So there's square number 9. So that one is going to go right here. So you can see how I alternated the colors. Let's see, my next one is going to be Pear Pizzazz. So as you can see, I don't have any colors that repeat themselves. Now tomorrow night, I'm actually going to work on this one only because the 2 that I have right here, I did some coloring. So I'm going to switch over to color and then we'll go back here and here. I just didn't want 2 nights in a row of you watching me color. So that's it for square number 9. And as I said, I'm going to end this video and then give me 5 or 10 minutes and I'll be back on with my monthly 3D Thursday class. And remember, I'm using a mason jar for my project. So thanks for all the hearts. Thanks for all the love. Day number 10 will be on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. as well. So I will see you after this video and again tomorrow night. Good night. Hello everyone, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to day number 10 of my 12 days of Christmas sampler squares. We're almost to the end. So tonight is day 10, so let me show you what we've worked on so far. So we've got 9 squares. These 2 rows are actually glued on. This is the pretty one we did last night. And tonight I'm jumping over to this section right here. So let me show you which one we're working on. And I will be able to take this coaster off in a few days because we will be done by Sunday. So tonight I'm doing the little house one, and it's got little tiny bows on each window. I thought that was really cute. So I'm going to be doing some coloring. So let me show you what we're using. And I am again tonight using all 4 colors: Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Pear Pizzazz, and Whisper White. I'm using the Tranquil Textures designer paper for layer number 2. For stamps, that little house image is from Farmhouse Christmas right here. And I am also using the coordinating die and the little bow die that you saw me use. I think it was on square number 4. We're actually going to cut all 6 out tonight. For ink colors, Gray Granite, Balmy Blue, and Pear Pizzazz. And then I'm going to be using a blender pen to color. And my 2 squares, the largest for layer number 1 is from the Stitch Shapes Frameless Dies, the largest square. Layer number 2 is from the Layering Squares dies, and this one measures 2 1/4 inches. So the first thing I'm going to do is stamp and cut out the little house because I want the Gray Granite ink to dry a little bit before I start coloring. So let me go ahead and stamp that. And now I'm going to bring in the Big Shot and do the rest of the cutting. So I'm going to place my little house image and then position my die. I am going to use washi tape to hold this down so it doesn't move on me. So there's my little house. Next, I'm going to do the 6 little bows, even though we only need 5. I'll just sneak that right there. I love that some of these dies that they're making now have a bunch of them you can do at once. Now let me make sure these are going to come out. Yep, they will. So let me finish that in a minute. The large square is with the Gray Granite cardstock. And the reason I jumped from one to the other on the squares is because I have 2 that I'm going to be coloring. And I didn't want to color 2 nights in a row. And now is the designer paper with layer number 2. I know you guys like tips, and I actually had to stop and tighten the handle on my Big Shot today. And I don't know if anyone else does this. Let me flip my Big Shot over. See where I keep my little Allen wrench? I just tape it to the underneath. So when I need to tighten my handle, I know where it is. So that's a good place if you guys don't know to do that. I just use masking tape so I can peel it off when I need it. Okay, so we've got the little house. Let me just finish punching out my 6 little bows. And I actually only need 5. Okay, there's my 5. Now let's glue this down. And I'm going to use up the rest of these dimensionals on the side here. And glue that to layer number 1. So this is, I kind of use this because it has like the little cloudy look in the background. Even though the house is a little wider, it still works. Now let me bring in, I brought in a box, my shoe box that I have, so I can elevate this so hopefully you guys can see better. And I'm going to start out with the Pear Pizzazz. It looks like it's glaring on that. Let me put a piece of white paper underneath that so it doesn't glare so much. There, hopefully that'll be better. Okay, I'm going to squeeze the center so I can get some ink in the lid. And I'm going to bring in the blender pen. And I'm just adding a little tiny bit of ink. And I'm going to start in the corner and drag the ink out. Because there's a lot of white on my frame, I want to leave a lot of white on my house. So I'm pretty much just coloring in the corners. And then we've got corner number 4. And I'm going to do the same thing up here. So see how I'm just pulling the color from the corner? So I just keep going back and forth just to keep the color moving. And you don't want to stay in one area too long because you'll get the paper will get too wet and you'll end up peeling it. Now another place that there would be shadows would be under the roof. Let me add a little bit more to that one. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do for the green, or the Pear Pizzazz. Now for the balmy blue, the only thing I colored with that, whoops, I gotta leave the lid open, is the little shutters. So those are pretty quick. I'm not being fussy on those. Let me add a little bit more to these too. And right here, and then I've got the chimney that I colored blue. And then a little tiny bit on the door. Now the last color is going to be the gray granite. Oops, I did it again. I gotta leave the lid open. And same thing, I'm gonna start in the corner and work my way out. And then I added a little bit where you see the little roofing, the shingles. This thing wants to tip on me. Let me see. Okay, that's better. Again, start in the corner, work my way out. And then I'll do the shingles. The peak of the house. And then all we got left is the porch. And I'm just starting way in the corner and dragging towards the center. So see how quick that was? Pretty easy. So I'm going to have one more square that I'm going to color, but that'll be on the last night. Let me move this over. Now we need to add all of the little bows. So all I'm gonna do is add, whoops, way too much glue on that one. You know what? I'm getting to the end of my bottle and it's really coming out. I had somebody ask me last night, and it piqued interest with everybody, why my glue flows so easily. Let me glue these 3 bows in place first. I'm using the Take Your Pick tool. So see how easy you can pick up the bows and just press them in place. Okay, before I do the other 2, so I ordered some nail polish one day on Amazon, some gel nail polish that I'm wearing. And this came with the 2 bottles in it, and I saved it. It's just a piece of foam. It's got 2 holes, and I keep my glue always upside down. So that's why my glue always flows easily. And I think someone was saying that they use like the floral foam that you can purchase anywhere, and then just poke 2 holes, and then it would hold your glue the same way. So just something really simple. Okay, let me add 2 more little dots. So Jewel was the one that wanted me to mention what I use. So I've got 2 more bows. This one was upside down, so I just had to flip it over. So look how cute that is with the little bows in the windows. So now all I've got left to do is to glue the house to the square. I'm going to cut some more of my dimensionals here. Do you guys use all your little strips? You should, because there's a lot left there when you take out all of the middle portions. So I'm just going to glue this, and like I said, it's going to be a little bit wider than the blue, but the blue is going to peak up top, so it looks like a sky. Okay, and that's it for square number 10. So let me bring this back in. So this one's going to go right here. And then tomorrow night, let me see what I'm working on. Oh, I'm actually going to have a tree here. I'm not going to tell you which one. A nice, pretty little tree. And then the last one's going to be some more coloring. So that's it for tonight. Thanks so much for joining me. And thanks to everybody that's been following me for the last 10 days. You guys are awesome. I love reading all your comments. I usually just go in and read and like, because I have a lot of comments. I just don't have time to respond to everybody. So I will see you again tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for square number 11. Have a good night, everyone. Good evening, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to day 11. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Hold on, my volume was up on my iPad. Colors I have been using on my sampler are Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Pear Pizzazz, and Whisper White. So tonight we're using the Winter Woods, and I'm actually using the coordinating dies in the woods. There's 2 missing here. I told you last night we were going to be using trees. So I've got my 2 tree dies. So the only colors I'm using tonight is Pear Pizzazz, Whisper White, and the Twinkle Designer Series paper. This is the one with all the little stars on it. I'm using the Frost White shimmer paint. I almost forgot what it's called. And then I have a little applicator that I'm using. I get those from these 100% cotton applicators that you find in the makeup section. And let me see what else I'm using. I think that's it. There's no ink tonight, no stamping, no bling. Pretty easy. So let's review what I've done so far. We've only got 1 more night to go. So these 2 are not glued down yet. This is the one we did last night with the coloring. So tonight we're doing the one that goes right here. Let me show you what that looks like. So this is the one. Now let me hold this down so it doesn't fall. What I want you to try to see on the video is I've added some shimmer paint on the ends of my little pieces here that flip up. Let me see if you can see that. I'll try to show you. So there's a little bit of shimmer on the end of each one of those. I think you can see it. I see that it's shiny on my screen in front of me. So that's what we're working on tonight. So let me bring the big shot in. So first off, I'm going to cut the squares, and oops, I forgot to review the squares with you. This is the largest square from the Stitch Shapes dies, and this square is 2 1/4 inches from the Layering Squares dies. So let me see if I can try. I'm gonna rip this so I can try to cut both squares at the same time. Oh, wait a minute. I need the designer paper on that one. Oh, my paper's sliding. I've got the precision base plate on only because of the trees, so I'm using that with my squares also, which you really don't need to. So there's my 2 squares. So now I'm going to bring in the trees. And I have this scrap piece from last night, and I think that's gonna work. And you've seen me use this tree on another video that I did, and I'll explain it to you again as I glue these together. So you need 2 pieces in order to complete this tree. Oh, Donna, you said the shimmer paint is beautiful. I'm glad you guys could see it. I wondered if it was showing up. Let me move this paper. It kind of ripped off. Okay, these are my 2 pieces. Now, if you remember what we talked about in one of my other videos, the reason you need 2 trees is because as you lift up these little flappy things, you can see that there's holes underneath. Let me just finish doing that. So what you are going to put underneath this tree is actually going to peek out of these holes. So if you were to use green, for example, the green would pop out, and you really don't want that. You want the tree to be the same color. So that's why I'm using the white on white. So now when you lift these up, there's white underneath. So let me go ahead and glue that together. And I add just a little bit of glue in the center on the flat parts, because you don't want the whole center coming up when you lift up all the flaps. And then what I usually do is line up the top of the tree. Press that in place. Make sure you press down on the center. So now all of your flaps will come up. Now I'm gonna do the shimmer paint right now because I want it to dry so that I can glue this tree to my squares. Now there's a little ball bearing inside, so make sure you can hear it when I'm stirring, and that's what keeps the paint flowing. So I'm actually going to use my little applicator, and I'm just adding some of that frost on the ends of each little flap. I'm just kind of dabbing it on. So I hope you guys can see that. And it doesn't have to be neat because this resembles snow. So, I mean, when snow falls onto a tree like it did here yesterday, all of the branches are covered and it's in clumps. So you kind of want it to look clumpy looking. I'm just going over one more time. Okay. I'm just trying to capture the shine. Okay, there we go. And I think you guys will see this part of it. So let me put that aside just for a second to let it dry. And then I'm going to glue my 2 squares together. So this one tonight is really quick. Now tomorrow night is my last square. And the reason I kept the one I'm doing tomorrow night for last, it's because it depicts the true meaning of Christmas. So that's all I'm going to give you for hints tonight. And what we'll do is glue all 4 squares again, and then we'll add the ribbon on the bottom. Oh, you guys like the tree? Isn't that neat how nice and shiny that is? So now all I'm going to do is add adhesive to the back. And the tree is taller than the square, but that's okay. It looks really pretty on the frame. I'm actually going to bring it down just a little bit so you can still see the little stars peeking out from the designer paper, which really gives it a nice look. So let me bring the frame back in. So as you see, even though it's taller, when you place it where it needs to go, it's fine. It looks pretty. Now, if you really want to get fancy, you could add some bling to the tree. But because I have a lot of the white theme going on, I opted to leave mine the way it is. And once these are dry, I'm going to fluff them up even more. So that's my square for tonight. And I hope you guys will tune in tomorrow to see what I've got planned for this one and the true meaning of Christmas. So have a good night, everyone. Thanks for all the love. And I will see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to finish off the sampler. Good night. Hello, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to my final night of my 12 days of Christmas sampler squares. I want to start out by saying thanks to everyone that has followed me for the last 12 days in a row while I show you one individual square each night. So tonight we're working on square number 12. So let's go over, first of all, the colors that I'm using again are Balmy Blue, Gray Granite, Pear Pizzazz, and Whisper White. So here's where we are at. Tonight we're going to glue row number 3 in place. So we're working on this square right here, which is square number 12. And let me show you what that looks like. Now I told you it was going to be the true meaning of Christmas. And this is the one right here. Now, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this on the screen or not, but the star is hand cut in 2 layers. And I have some clear Wink of Stella, and it shimmers. I'm trying to see on the camera if you guys can see that. Anyway, it shimmers a lot because I added 2 layers of the clear Wink of Stella. Thanks for all the hearts I'm seeing. You guys like that one. So let's get started. So all we need tonight is Whisper White. And then a blender pen and Wink of Stella. And we're using all 3 of the ink colors, Pear Pizzazz, Balmy Blue, and Gray Granite. And the stamp set I'm using is the Illuminated Christmas. I'm using the 3 Wise Men and the star image. So let's start by cutting out the 2 squares. To review, the square I'm using for the layer number 1 is the largest square from the Stitch Shapes dies. Layer number 2 is the square that measures 2 1/4 inches wide from the Layering Squares dies. So let me go ahead and bring the big shot in. So I'm going to go ahead and cut both squares at the same time. And I'm going to go ahead and grab another piece of white. I thought I'd have enough room here, but I forgot that I do have to stamp 2 of the stars since I'm layering them. So let me get another piece. So I'm stamping everything with the gray granite ink. So there's my 3 wise men. And then I'm going to stamp 2 of the star. Now I'm going to bring in the blender pen, and I'm going to start out with balmy blue ink. Now I did bring my shoebox again tonight so I can raise this a little bit, hopefully so you guys can see the coloring. Now I'm going to start with the little wise men on the end. Let me see how I can situate this. And I'm just barely adding color. So I'm going to start where the sleeve meets the robe and pull down. Again, my sampler was based on a lot of white space, so that's why I'm just adding just a little bit of color on each of these 3 wise men. I'm not even doing the skin color, so I'm just doing pretty much the robe. Okay, so that's it for the balmy blue. Now let's see what I need on the star. I'm actually going to just start in the center and fan out. Okay, so that's it for balmy blue. Next is Pear Pizzazz. I'm so used to the new ink pads now that I forget to push on this one. I don't have them all yet. Okay, Pear Pizzazz, and again, I'm just going to start and pull out. These images are so small that you really can't go wrong in coloring these. And that's all I'm going to do on that one. And then lastly is the gray granite. Now this is the one that I'm going to cut just the center portion, so that's why I'm just coloring that on that part. On the other one, I'm going to start at the top of the leg and pull down. So it's a little bit darker at the top. So you can see that I'm leaving a little bit of white space. I'm not coloring everything. It's almost the watercolor look. And then our third little guy over here. Again, I'm starting under the sleeve and pulling down. And let's see, we'll do the crown and then right here, and that's it. That's it for coloring. Now, you guys have to watch me fussy cut just a little bit. So the star is pretty easy because it's just straight lines. So just kind of snip around all of the points. I'm leaving about maybe a 1/16 of an inch of white space around the outside. So you actually ended up If you're going to copy this sampler, I only had 2 squares out of the 12 that there's a little bit of fussy cutting. The first one is funny because it's the first square and the last square. The first one was the poinsettia. So we started with fussy cutting and we ended with fussy cutting, and I didn't realize that until just now. Okay, now I'm going to go a little bit closer on this one, pretty much up to the line, only because you have lines intersecting there and I don't want those to show. Oh, you know what I did wrong? I just did something wrong. Let me finish this. Whoops, wrong star. I just messed up. So you guys get to watch a little bit longer. This should have been on my square, not on my scrap. I'm gonna do this rather quickly, because I was thinking I didn't cut around this. I did go off the edge of the page a little bit. Well, a little too much on that one. Let's try that again. There we go. So I got to color all over again, but you saw how quickly I did that. It doesn't take me long. I'm so used to all the layers that we've had on each square that I forgot that I had to stamp directly on the white square. Okay, there's the first one. Because this would be difficult to cut around. Look at all the little spaces in between. I'm so glad you don't have to watch me do that. I would if I had to, though. So I'll get this quickly done up. And we'll glue everything together, and then we'll add the ribbon on the end and we'll be done. And I hope to see pictures of you guys that have decided to do this along with me. Okay. I saved it. Now before I glue this together, I'm going to color with the Clear Wink of Stella. And by the time I do the other one, this one will be dry, so I'll be able to do 2 coats of it. I really wanted it to, let me squeeze some of that too. I really wanted it to sparkle. Now, let me see if you guys can see that. I can't see it on the camera yet. I hope you can see how pretty that is. Okay, so there goes layer number 2. I squeezed it too, and a lot more is coming out, so it's even prettier. Now I'm going to add a Stampin' Dimensional in the center. And glue this one right over the top, if I can grab it. Oh, you guys should see how pretty this is. I'm going to try to show it to you again because it's so sparkly. I'm trying to hit the light just right. Okay, now I need to glue this square to the other white square. Remember that there's always 2 sides to your cardstock when you make a boo-boo like I just did. This one goes right here, and then I'm going to glue the star right in the corner. Okay, now we're ready to glue the rest of our squares down. Oops, wrong one. This is the finished one. You can tell I had a class today and I'm tired. I just keep messing up here. Okay, so let's start out with this square. And I need another bottle of glue. This one I think is empty. So now these are pretty easy because you kind of just center them, because your other your other squares are already in place. Now, somebody did email me and ask me how well these stick. I mean, I can't move these. They're stuck. And what I usually do after I leave you guys, I actually turn this upside down when I'm sure that the squares are glued in place. Let me just show you what I mean. Let me make sure this one won't pop off. So I flip this upside down and I put something here inside to add a little bit of weight so that they dry really well overnight. Okay, we got 2 more to go. I really love this tree. It's so pretty. So I had a class today and the girls in my class wanted to see my frame even before they saw the last square, and they couldn't believe the difference with seeing it in person. Okay, so there's all 12 squares. Now I'm going to bring in the polka dot tulle ribbon, and this is the white. Let me move my box here because I'm creating a shadow. And all I did with that, and I'm hoping there's enough left here because my roll is almost done. I'm just going to wrap that around the bottom. And I think I do have plenty. And then I'm just going to tie a bow. Now this stuff is pretty stretchy. I just have to flip it over right here. So when you tie it, you have to make sure you don't stretch it too hard so that this pulls. Because see what happens when I pull, it gets really skinny. So you just kind of have to make sure it's taut but not too tight. Now let me bring in my ribbon scissors. And then I would just mess around with my bow a little bit more to make it nice and pretty. And it needs to be more on the edge, so I'm going to push it over. And there's the frame all finished. So for anyone that's been creating with me, please send me pictures of what you've done. I really would like to see that. So, and this is the first one I made. So both so pretty. Now, as far as next week is Thanksgiving, so I won't be back online until Friday. I'm going to have I think it's my Friday Folds. Yep, I'm going to have my Friday Folds class on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So again, thanks so much to everyone for joining me for the last 12 nights in a row. I am tired. I need a break, so I will see you again on Friday next week. So have a good Thanksgiving and have a good week, everyone. Have a good night.